Dillian Whyte appeared on Sky the other day. He did an interview with them, talked about his recent shoulder surgery and how that's been going, or how the recovery's been going, and when he's looking to get back in the ring. And he says he wants to get back in the ring by the end of March, early June, after he fully recovers from this shoulder surgery. So anyone suspecting or thinking that shoulder surgery ain't legit, you better think again, because there's no way a guy that young would be out the ring for that long. It's not like he's a cash cow. It's not like he can afford to fight only once or twice a year. He can't. He's still a young fighter with his whole career ahead of him. So he'll want to get out there as soon as he can, but he's had this shoulder surgery and he's going to have to give it time to heal and recover before he can go out there and fight again. But anyway, on this show, the presenter, who was a woman, you can find this interview on YouTube if you haven't seen it. Just type in Dillian Whyte and search for this week and you'll find the interview with him on Sky. And the woman asks him what he thinks about a potential fight between Chisora and Joshua. And Dillian Whyte basically says that would be a step back for Joshua. Why would he take on Chisora? He's just fought and beat me. Fighting Chisora is a step backwards. And he then said, I would like to fight Dereck Chisora. He sees a fight between him and Chisora as being a more legitimate matchup. And I can definitely understand that argument. The woman said, so, okay, you want to fight Chisora? Dillian Whyte said, Chisora won't be interested in fighting me. He won't fight me, trust me. No sooner had he said that, Dereck Chisora took to social media and he said, actually, Dillian, if you want to fight, I'm here. Let's fight. Let's do it. So, yeah, Dillian Whyte calls out Chisora. Chisora responds and says, let's make the fight happen. Now, I feel that Dillian Whyte can beat Dereck Chisora. And one of the things that's been baffling me a lot is I've been seeing a lot of comments on the internet from people claiming that Dillian Whyte is the new Dereck Chisora. Some people saying that he's a cheap Chisora knockoff, that he tries to imitate Chisora's style and all this kind of stuff. I'm completely baffled by those comments. I don't see any similarity at all between Dillian Whyte's style and Chisora's style. None. They don't fight anything alike. Chisora is a come forward pressure fighter, swarms all over you, bobbing and weaving, especially when he's fighting taller guys. He'll be bobbing and weaving, coming forward with his hands up, kind of Joe Frazier style, cross-arm defense or sometimes peekaboo defense. That's how he fights. Dillian Whyte don't fight anything like that. Dillian Whyte is, for one, much taller than Dereck Chisora. Chisora is 6'1", Dillian Whyte is 6'4". He's got a longer reach than Chisora, much longer reach. I've never seen Dillian Whyte bobbing and weaving. Dillian Whyte is not a pressure fighter. Dillian Whyte is a boxer puncher. And in fact, we saw a lot of that boxer puncher in him in the Anthony Joshua fight. Dillian Whyte fought most of that fight either on the back foot or in the middle of the ring. There were very few moments in that fight where Dillian Whyte actually came forward and was pushing Anthony Joshua back. No, he was mostly on the back foot, jabbing, countering, and throwing body shots here and there. And in fact, the punch which he threw that hurt Joshua was a left hook counter with his back to the ropes. I've never seen Dereck Chisora throw that kind of punch in his entire career. So I do not understand. I'm totally baffled and lost when people say that Dillian Whyte is somehow the new Chisora style-wise. No idea what people are looking at with that one, but hey, it is what it is. But as I say, if this fight gets made, it all depends on how Dillian Whyte can recover psychologically from getting knocked out by Joshua. Although I don't think he'll struggle too much psychologically, because Dillian is, from what I've known of Dillian Whyte and what I've seen of him over the years, Dillian Whyte is incredibly strong mentally. I think he is one of those kind of guys that can just come back from something like that. And, there are many other fighters I could name who have managed to come back from KO defeats without any residual psychological effects from it, not any noticeable ones anyway. So, but again, that remains to be seen. We'll see how he recovers from the psychological effects of the knockout, although I think he'll be okay. And obviously, he's just had the shoulder surgery. And one of my biggest gripes with Dillian Whyte in the Joshua fight was his conditioning seemed poor. He's not in anywhere near the kind of condition now that he was in before he got banned for taking the over-the-counter supplement Jacked or Jack 3D, however you want to describe, however you want to pronounce it or call it, whatever. Yeah, he's nowhere near in as good a shape as he was prior to his ban. If you look at the videos of him prior to his ban, you can see videos of him training and the guy's got a six-pack. The guy weighs about 230 pounds back then. He's got a six-pack, looks much sharper in training on the pads and totally different conditioning level. Now, he's looking very flabby, and I wasn't impressed with his conditioning in the Anthony Joshua fight at all. And with him being out of the ring for so long, because he's recovering from this shoulder surgery, what kind of training is he going to be doing? Because obviously he can't do no upper body training, certainly not on his left-hand side. I hope that he don't think he should just lay around doing nothing. I hope he's still going to be out there doing his runs. I hope he's going to be doing plenty of leg work, exercise bike, running, and all that kind of stuff. I hope he understands that you still need to keep the training going, even if it's not boxing training. Because the last thing you want is him putting on even more weight, getting in even worse shape than he already was, and then coming back at the end of May, early June, and trying to fight a Dereck Chisora. That wouldn't be a good idea. It really wouldn't. Chisora is very active at the moment. He's with the Sauerlands. He just fought the other night. Would not be a good idea to come back and fight Dereck Chisora straight away. As far as I'm aware, as far as I know, Dillian Whyte is still without a promoter. His last 3 fights, he's fought on Matchroom cards, but he's been effectively self-promoted. He may continue being self-promoted. He obviously recently appeared on Sky, and he recently tweeted out that he'll be fighting again on Sky in the near future. So I'm guessing his next fight is going to be on Sky. So he's in a good position for someone that wants to be self-promoted, because his stock and his public profile was raised significantly from the Anthony Joshua fight, even though he lost. The fact that he went out on his shield and made a fight of it has definitely increased his stock. Definitely. The stock has definitely gone up. The British public, they said, okay, you got knocked out, but you went out on your shield. You didn't go out like a pussy. You went out fighting. So we respect that. Even though we might not like your mouth, we respect that. That's what the British public are basically saying now. So, yeah, he could continue on being self-promoted and fighting on Eddie Hearn shows on Sky. But will that mean that they're going to put pressure on him to fight someone substantial? Come straight back and fight a Dereck Chisora? Because he really needs some rehabilitation fights. Coming off the back of that type of injury and what have you, he needs some rehabilitation fights, definitely. But if Dillian Whyte ever gets in the kind of shape that he was in prior to his ban, I would pick Dillian Whyte to not only beat Chisora, but to knock him out. Yeah, I'd pick him to knock Chisora out, probably late in the fight. If he's in the kind of shape that he was against Anthony Joshua, it's a much tougher fight for Dillian, but it's still a fight that I think he can win. Definitely. Still definitely. Chisora hasn't been looking great. I do think Chisora is happier over there in Germany fighting for the Sauerlands. I think he's happier in that situation than he was under Frank Warren. His energy stores in terms of his personality seem to have been rejuvenated. Every time I see him in interviews now, he seems more like the old Dereck. There was a time, for quite a while when he was fighting under Frank Warren where he just seemed totally subdued in all his interviews. He just, I don't know, he seemed like he was in a trance, like a zombie. But now he seems more like the old Dereck. He's got his spring back in his step. It's like I say, his performances ain't been great. He's been fighting journeyman, but if you look throughout Dereck Chisora's career, he's never looked great against journeyman. He's always looked disinterested and unmotivated against journeyman. Even prior to his fight against Vitaly Klitschko, you look at some of the journeymen he fought, he was just going through the motions with some of these guys. The Paul Butlin fight was a good example. Early in his career, he was totally disinterested, bit Paul Butlin on the shoulder and all that, whatever. So, yeah, even Dillian Whyte, in the shape he was in against Joshua, I would give him an edge over Chisora, but I'd really hope that he's going to get in better shape than that. I'd really hope to see him in the kind of shape he was in prior to the ban. That version of Dillian, I think, definitely beats Chisora, no question. Just my opinion. Let me know how you feel about this development. Again, as I say, I think it would be very unwise for Dillian Whyte to take a Chisora fight as his first fight back. I think he will need some tune-ups, quite a few tune-ups, because Chisora has been very active. So, yeah, let me know how you feel about this fight. How do you think it would go? And let me know about, let me know your comments on everything I've mentioned, all the points I've raised in this video. It's your boy Hatman, I'm out.